Hello and welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Madden, acting coach, award-winning theatre school owner and business mentor for performing arts professionals who want more time, more income and zero burnout. My guest today is someone who has built a creative business with a huge amount of heart. Katy Batchelor is the founder of Zozimus Drama in Northamptonshire, a company that gives children the chance to explore their creativity and build confidence through drama without the pressure of a performance at the end. A former secondary school drama and music teacher with a background in youth theatre, Katy saw firsthand how many children were put off by the expectation to perform, so she created a safe, imaginative space where storytelling, role play and puppetry could allow children, particularly those who are neurodiverse, anxious, or quietly creative, to express themselves freely and feel truly seen. Since officially launching in April 2021, just as we were coming out of a pandemic, Zozimus Drama has grown not only into a thriving community for young people, but also into the Zozimus Drama Business in a Box, a ready-to-run program that helps others start their own drama business without the constraints of a franchise. Katy is passionate about helping other creatives build sustainable, purpose-led businesses, but she's also honest about the realities, the juggle of wearing all the hats, the pressure of doing it solo, and the toll on mental health. Today, she's here to share the highs and challenges of building a business that doesn't fit the traditional mould, and why she believes drama can be at its most powerful when it's not about being on stage at all. Katy Batchelor, welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. Very exciting.
It is very exciting. I don't want to waste any time. Let's get straight to it. So I always like to start by asking about the beginning. So can you take us back to when you first had the idea for Zozimus Drama? What was happening in your life at that point?
Well, I had just had my second child, and I was going back to teaching part-time, which I didn't really want to do. And I realised that I loved doing all of the shows and all of the choirs and seeing how much the children could thrive and grow within that. But I also remember those children that were a little bit shyer or really would have proper stage fright. And I just thought I really wanted to create something that you could use drama to build confidence and imagination without any pressure. So, playing around with the idea of stories, especially as I like bringing them to life with my own children, I thought that would be a good place to start it and go from there, really.
Sounds amazing. And how did your years as a secondary school drama and music teacher and all your youth theatre background shape what you've now built?
I think it's just working with children, but also I think it was when I directed Les Miserables school edition, and there was a kid that I managed to drag into doing it, initially dragged in, and then at the end he was just like, this is the best thing I've ever done and I'll remember this forever. And I was just like, oh, this is what I enjoy doing. And then all the kind of politics with senior leadership team and all of that, I just hated it. So all the kind of bits and pieces around how kids could gain confidence I really liked. And I guess it was that kind of interaction with those age groups that I was kind of like, yeah, I think I want to do something a bit more with this rather than just teaching in a school, basically.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I know loads of school teachers, and I also have taught and do teach in a school myself, but the constraints can be quite restrictive, can't they? So I can imagine making your own company felt very freeing.
It was, yeah, definitely. I mean, there are obviously bonuses for being in a school, but I just, yeah, as you said, the constraints are just, it doesn't allow you to kind of explore things fully. And I think I also found that drama's big in secondary school. Well, to a point. I know the school that I was at had actually cut drama with the younger years by the time I left. And I was like, that's not great. And so that's why I thought, actually, if I start with the primary age, where they actually get to explore this before secondary, if it continues in secondary, it's a really good stepping stone for their confidence in public speaking and imagination and problem solving, etc., basically.
Definitely. And my next question was going to be, did you always know that you wanted to do your own thing, or was there a specific moment that pushed you to take the leap? So was there a tipping point, or was there a specific moment that led you to that?
I think kind of I think to make me actually try it out is that obviously I talked about ideas and stuff for a while. And I'd gone back after maternity leave with my first child, and it didn't feel the same 3 days a week. It didn't feel really connected. And I was just like, I just don't want to continue like this. I never wanted to purchase a franchise or something. I've not good at sticking to the rules. But I'm very creative, and I love, composing and writing stuff and using my ideas. And I just thought I'm not going to find what I'm looking for unless I do it myself.
Amazing. So one of the most striking things that has made me think about you and Zozimus Drama is that you deliberately don't do shows or performances. So can you talk about why that's so important and how parents and schools have responded to that?
So my background is performing. I've always loved performing. I direct youth theatre where we do massive musical productions, but essentially there are loads of children out there that want to explore these things, but the minute they're on stage it's just terrifying. They can't see past the faces and the lights and everything. So when I began, I did say that it wouldn't be with parents watching, but I did used to do a show and tell at the end, thinking then they can see something at the end of a term. But the kids just clammed up, or they would play up, or they would just not do the lesson. And I thought, what it's about, this is about having a safe space so that the children can explore in any bonkers way they want to the stories. And it varies from the different age groups. The younger ones are a lot more about basing it around a story and then them coming up with their own ideas and taking it on random, I guess, imaginative play angles, which I have to rein in sometimes because it could go on for hours. But seeing the growth in the children has been brilliant. And the way that I get past parents not seeing them in shows or show and tells is I have a WhatsApp group for each class where we update them with some pictures or things that their children are doing, so they can then have those discussions with the kids when they're kind of like, how was Zozimus Drama? And they just go, ugh. But I heard you were an alien today or something. And that has worked really, really well. So it's become, I think people are realising the benefits of drama. And then those kids that have gone really thrived and go, I want to do more, have gone to go and do more as well. And others have just had it as a stepping stone for their confidence, which has been great.
The WhatsApp group's a really good workaround, isn't it? It's a really good way to still keep all the parents engaged and involved and part of their child's journey, but without them being there live in the room. Apart from gaining confidence and extending their imagination, what else do you think children gain when you remove that element of pressure?
I think they have a sense of freedom, that doesn't matter making mistakes. I think they definitely have that initial freedom in the younger group, which I call curiositors.
Love that
when they
name.
go into the next group, which is wonderators, I initially, because I let them go I encourage them to go off into groups and put their own thing together. I have had the younger ones who've just come up going, but what if it's wrong? And I'm like, there is no wrong. It doesn't matter. And if they don't want to show each other stuff, they don't have to. But I always model things, and I love clowning around and making them laugh, which is really important to show that being silly, it doesn't matter, and they can all have a laugh with you. I think recently it was with my older groups. I've got one class which is kind of moving into secondary, but it was a really hot day. And I'd just been doing the colour run with my child's school and I'd lost the plot. I think I'd gone in and we had a new starter and I went a bit crazy. And at one point, one of my 11-year-olds said, Katy, you need a timeout. And I was like, okay, because I'd got so hyper because I just had, and then the minute I got home, I mean, I'd passed out. I obviously was overheated over everything. But yeah, but it's nice that we've got that freedom to share things with each other. And I always talk about it as a Zozimus family, drama family, there to support each other and stuff, which is really great.
And I think it's really important that you are there, in your words, clowning around with them to show that adults can be silly as well as children, right? Because I think that's so important to lead by example for a start. And secondly, you can't be what you can't see sometimes, can you?
No. When it came to like improvising when I was younger, terrified me. I didn't want it to be wrong.
Actually.
Hated it. I absolutely hated it. Whereas now it's one of my favourite things to do.
Same.
Because it's basically doing imaginative play and making it up as you go along. But it's so we do so much of that. It's really good for them to realise that it's about thinking on the spot, isn't it, really? And I think a lot of people forget that. They go, oh, drama is just about being an actress or performing. And you're like, but actually there are so many skills that help shape and grow the children. And improvisation is one that we really push quite hard. And if they go, I'm like, no, there's no wrong. And I just obviously put on some very bad accents, so I'm not great at doing. But I get to play every character and be really silly. So
that's fantastic. So that's really interesting that you say that you didn't like improvising as a child, and neither did I. And that leads me perfectly on the next point I was going to make. I don't know if this was the same for you, but perhaps it was because our spaces didn't allow us to feel as safe as we wanted to, because we could have been, I certainly was, a child that wanted to get things right all of the time and had quite a lot of perfectionism tendencies. Exactly. And what you promote at Zozimus Drama is that it's an incredibly safe place for everybody because it's very inclusive. And I know that you're really passionate about creating safe spaces for children to ensure that they feel seen. So I imagine improvisation is one of those tactics that you use, but how else do you go about building that sense of safety and belonging with your students?
I think for being a child of performing arts and doing lots of shows and things like that, unfortunately, you get a lot of drama queens, is a nice way to put it, some kind of quite unpleasant characters. It brings out the worst in people that want to be in the limelight and then can be really unkind. And they have the opposite side, obviously, because it kept going. You just had to kind of ignore that. But that is not tolerated at all in my classes. And I constantly make sure that we're supportive of each other. And it does crop up every now and again. But essentially, I think it's because they're allowed to come up with their own ideas. I never shut any ideas down. We have little chats with each other, make sure that if we feedback, we do a lot of positive things. Yes, sometimes as they get older, it's a bit of like how to make it better rather than just... but equally, I think because they're not performing to anyone except for each other, which sometimes if they're very shy to start off with, they'll join in together and then I get them to show stuff and they're like, no. And I'm like, well, that's fine. And bit by bit, or I do it with them. Sometimes that helps, is that I'll just jump in and be their partner or something. But it just shows them that actually everyone's there to support each other rather than judge and go, well, can't believe she got the part, or that improvisation was rubbish or whatever, which you get so much of, which is such a shame. But because of that performance element being out of it and doing shows, which don't get me wrong, I love them. I love doing that side, but it's not for everybody. I guess it's a bit like sports, isn't it? You get to a certain age, and it's all about being on a team. It's all about playing for a team. And actually, where's the fun bit gone? The bit that
Absolutely.
They learn skills from, but don't need to be the best at it to be performing. They can just use their imagination and creativity or skills to kind of enhance their enjoyment with everything, basically.
And it sounds to me that because it is so child-led, obviously you will have planned your sessions and you'll have a structure and objectives that you want to meet. But it sounds to me that it's very much led by them and their creativity and their imaginations, and that they just can't get anything wrong. So there's nothing to lose, is there? And I imagine that's one of the other the reasons why it just feels like such a safe space. And the fact that you talk about how you're a family and a community a lot of the time, those words will reinforce that. And I want to ask, have your understanding of children's needs changed since you started your Zozimus Drama Business?
Well, yes, it has actually. I've always struggled with mental health, generally anxiety and depression, but I've always felt there was something wrong. There's something wrong with me when the way I forgetful, do things, are a bit scatty, jump around from thing to thing and start thousands of projects all at once and all of this sort of stuff. And then a few years ago, I had a parent that came along and her child was on the spectrum, not sure what it was, but she wasn't sure, but they were looking into it. But she was yabbering away to me and said, oh, well, yeah, and I've just been diagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard about it in women. I was just interested and did a little Google. And I was like, oh my God, it's actually me. I'm reading about myself. And then I thought, well, that makes sense because my youngest daughter, we've definitely known there's something. And I thought she fits into this too, if not actually autism as well, which we're on that pathway at the moment. So it made me kind of more aware of it, and I got diagnosed, and then it's really heightened everything, especially with my own daughter as well. And it's realizing that actually it's a different way that people's children's or adults' brains work. We're a highly imaginative group of people, and prescriptive ways of reading and writing and all of those things don't always work, and they need places to go and express and explore where they can have their mask down, because masking is quite a thing that a lot of neurodivergent children do to try and look like they're the part in school, and then they get home, like my youngest does, absolute meltdown. But they're able to kind of have the mask down and have fun and express in a safe space. So it has warranted like more children coming in. Obviously, there are limitations with levels of need because there's obviously one teacher. So sometimes it hasn't always worked out. But the difference in those children, or hearing about how they've looked forward to coming, how they've been able to make connections with things. I use stories. We don't have scripts and stuff out, but that has actually encouraged them to be like, oh, I wanted to find more about that, or read it, or things like that as well. So, I mean, neurodivergency is becoming more of a thing because there's more understanding around it. And schools especially are trying, but the system doesn't quite work. And things like drama, if you can personify bits and pieces or get them to look at it in a different way, those children can access it better. That is something I'd love to explore more, but it's a big, wide old topic. And well, I could go on about it for hours, about the education system, but it's definitely changed and it's made the sessions more welcoming.
Well, first of all, Katy, thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us. I cannot tell you how many people will be resonating with you right now. Most of our audience are in the performing arts sector. I think it's a lot more common for people in the performing arts sector to be neurodivergent. And I imagine a lot of people are feeling very seen right now. And if they also have children who, then I think they will really hear you as well. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And secondly, I just love how you've used your own personal experience to have such a positive influence on your company and your inclusivity and everything. It's just amazing. And I know that you really want to explore this side of education and life and the world in more detail. So yeah, watch this space, everybody. And, you know, we all just heard there how heart-led you are. And it's such a heart-led creative business. We all know that it can be the most rewarding job in the world, but it's also incredibly overwhelming because we invest so much into our passion and we love working with all these incredible youngsters. But what have been some of the biggest challenges for you?
I think it's going from a job which has structure but also creativity in it, for teaching in a school, to doing about 1,000 different jobs in one. learning about marketing and sales, budgeting, and it's constant and coming up with new ideas, and it's having to wear so many different hats all the time and hoping to kind of make some money from it as well as enjoying it. And things don't always work out all the time. You have to kind of chop and change. And you think you've cracked it in terms of, you know, getting loads of people in, then suddenly it goes quiet again, and it's very demanding how much it has to chop and change, and it's incredibly hard to switch off. One benefit of having your own thing is that you've got more flexibility, but I do find it hard to actually switch off and turn off my devices and things like that, and to not keep at it. And it takes its toll, really, which is hard, like, because there's so many amazing things with it. And perhaps if I'd purchased a franchise or something, a lot of that stuff that I've spent lots of money on that didn't work or whatever, it would have just been done and I could have just done it. But that wouldn't have worked for me because I have too many ideas and things. So I'm kind of my own worst enemy. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning of this year, with looking at expanding the business in a different direction, was meant to be a really positive thing, but I went into complete burnout. And it's only recently that I've come out of it and being able to see clearly, because I think it was just too much in my head going on. And I just hadn't taken the time to kind of reset and go, it doesn't matter. Like, you're putting these own pressures on yourself rather than anyone else giving you that deadline of things. It's yourself that's doing this. I had a holiday actually with some friends, and I came back and I felt like a different person. And it's also being able to kind of look at everything and go, right, is this urgent? Because I tend to want to do everything now. And I've written out things before and gone, how much time is this going to take? And I've gone, right, I'm guesstimating 8 hours, but I only have 3 hours of the day left. And gone, that's not going to work. So yeah, it is a juggle, but very rewarding at the same time. I'm very proud of what I've achieved in the last 4 years and how it's grown and changed, and finding the right formulas and the things that always work.
Many people will be identifying with being burnt out as well, right? This is what this podcast is about. It's about sharing how our burnout shows up for us, how we get to that stage, what leads us there, and then what do we do about it? Because once you get to absolute burnout where you literally can't do anything, well, then you're no good to anybody. But if you are able to recognize any of your triggers, any of the things that are mounting up, and then how to deal with it, then that's the best thing that we can do. So how does burnout show up for you?
Definitely at the end of my tether. So I've got no patience left. I'd say my anxiety flares up, which is very debilitating. Even if you think you know what set it off, because it's such a physical response, however much I try and talk myself out of being, don't be so silly, you know, it's really hard. And equally for me, I just was out of ideas and enthusiasm. All my passion had just gone to zero.
Yeah, it's
which
really
was quite
tough,
upsetting,
isn't it?
because
Yeah.
it was really tough, because I was like, this is the whole point of why I've done this. I don't want to just go, oh, I quit. But I was like, I wasn't sure how to get out of that. I did have to adjust my medication a bit, but I think it literally was going, right, I just need a break. I just need an actual break, where I left my laptop behind, which is unheard of.
Yeah, I can't believe
I had
you did
four
that.
or 5 days. I know. And it was exactly what I needed. Because I think besides the business side, I'm a full-time mum. You know, I have a husband that has a fantastic job working in Formula One as a photographer, but he travels a lot. So half the time it's me. So I've got 2 young children trying to run a business, if not 2, if not maybe 3. As I said, my own worst enemy. But it's hard juggling it all, and trying to be present for everything is really, really tricky. I mean, I knew something was wrong, but I was just like, I don't know how to reset it. But
Yeah,
it actually
of course.
was having a break or a holiday or just literally time out to go. I think probably because actually, even if I'm not working and the kids are here, we're on 24/7. You don't properly chill out. So, I mean, obviously, I'd love to be able to go on holiday every year with my friends for a long weekend. Just not going to be the answer all the time. But having time that was just for me and I don't have to think of any or worry about anything else was the reset that I needed to kind of move forward and get creative.
Amazing. Apart from going on a lovely holiday with your friends, as you say, it's probably not the most sustainable thing and probably not something that you'd be able to recommend to everybody. But in your experience, how do you manage balancing teaching, parenting, and growing multiple businesses?
I don't know. It's very hard. It's finding different ways through all the time, really. It's just a bit constant, really. I think what I have started doing now is reaching out and having support in getting more staff on board so I can pull back on certain elements and delegating things that I don't need to do all the time. But equally, I've just started only more recently creating a sort of time blocking thing and realising I'm putting far too much on myself and I have to just go, okay, it's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter. And it's kind of having that mantra a little bit that if it has to be done urgently, fine. But the other things that you're saying are urgent, really, whose pressure are you putting? Is that from? My boss is me. So I'm really mean to myself, I'd say. And I think generally it's trying to be a bit kinder, which is I do find hard and get told a lot by people. Even you have said, be kind to yourself. And it's slowly sinking in.
You need to speak to yourself a bit more like you would speak to your best friend, is what we've talked about, isn't it? But I think from what I can see is that you are just living life in real time all of the time. So you're just dealing with whatever is in front of you, which I think is a really good place to be, because it means you're living in the moment. And as you said earlier, you look at a task and you think, right, how long is that going to take me to do? Okay, 8 hours. Well, I don't have 8 hours today, so I'm not going to start it today. Let's have a look and do another time of tasks and get that done. The fact that you've started building your team now, which we'll get onto very soon, and delegating is an amazing breakthrough for any business owner. It's like the moment where you know that growth is just around the corner. So it's just the biggest tip for me to anybody who is getting to that point where they're starting to feel like they might be approaching burnout, they might be a bit overwhelmed, things are starting to get a bit too much. That is the time to start thinking about bringing at least one extra person into your team. But have you ever got to the point, Katy, where you've thought about stopping or scaling back, or have you just kept on going?
I'd say after... I think it was it was only been going for 6 months, but there was a bit of a dip in, I think it was January 2022. Like, oh my gosh, everything's not flowing like it was. And then I found a business coach, which kind of reawakened it, rebranded, resorted everything out. But I'd say the one that's been most recent is most recently, where the enjoyment of teaching even went. And I was just like, what is going on? And the thing is that kids are wonderful, but if you're not feeling well, even if you're trying your hardest to cover it up, they know, and not in a way that they're deliberately being horrible or difficult, but they just seem, it's like it's finding your weakness and they push it. And then it just means you just go, and I'm like, I don't want to snap or tell children off. This is not what I'm here to do. And that, I think, really made me go, oh, what am I doing? Is this right? Do I need to fully pull back? Do I still want to do this anymore? And that was the first proper time that I was like, this is worrying. But then obviously I found a way to reset, sort out my medication and tried to work on my, what's the word I'm looking for? Look at things a little bit differently. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, mindset. Yes, I still want to pull back a bit because I think I'm moving in a slightly different direction.
You're probably moving into, transitioning into another season of your career, aren't you?
I think so, but I've gone back into enjoying elements again, which is good, thank goodness.
We all have these peaks and troughs, don't we? We're just humans at the end of the day. And I think as theatre school owners, drama teachers, coaches, dance teachers, we hold ourselves to such a high level because we work with young people, you know, we've got to set an example, we've got to be on all the time. And a lot of people, I don't think, have that same amount of that type of pressure in their job. They might have a different type of pressure, of course, but we hold ourselves to a very high account with good reason, because it's a really important job working with young people. But we are just human, and we have to remind ourselves of that. And we're allowed to have these peaks and troughs in our teaching life or in our career. And the fact that you acknowledged it and then did something about it is just amazing, you know. And if it was that you just thought, do you know what, maybe teaching isn't for me anymore, and I'm going to delegate everything to people that are able to give the students what they need, and then so be it. But you're not at that stage at the moment. But I think it's being able to give yourself the grace that you're allowed to move through these transitions, and the fact that you were proactive about it is what's so incredible to me. So as demand grew for your Zozimus drama classes, we then have decided to launch the Zozimus Drama Business in a Box. So how did that come about?
So I'd always loved the idea initially of franchising, having a big team that I can kind of mentor. But being in the children's sector, after a while, I was like, it's getting a bit saturated and it's very stressful, because even though you can find some amazing people, a lot of them I'm coming across are neurodivergent like me, and our organisation is awful. The stress of trying to manage those people and make sure that they're following all the rules and regulations, I just didn't think I wanted to do that. But I really wanted other people to spread what I've created. Essentially, it enables people to literally purchase a kind of startup of Zozimus Drama, and it's theirs for a certain amount of money. And then there's a tiny subscription to me for them to have monthly coaching and a few other little extra bits and pieces. So they've got that. So we've still got the community, but everything's theirs. You don't have to give fees and stuff. And I know that some people might go, oh, but then you're not getting all the money. But a part of me is just like, well, that doesn't actually matter to me. This is a better way of kind of spreading it without too much stress. There's always stresses.
Yeah. And they have to purchase it from you with an initial down payment, don't they? So,
absolutely.
You know, they are investing and you are gaining from a financial perspective in that regard.
The subscription is $39.99 a month, and that's it. So even if you wanted more territories and you purchased those from me as well, you still wouldn't pay any more a month to secure those. It would just be that, and you get the community of other providers. You get support from me when you're just not sure what you need to do. I think people do find it hard when they've been extremely successful with the franchise that they've purchased, but a big whack of their money that they've done has to go back. And I get it, you know, obviously the person that's created the initial business has put a lot of work into it, but I can understand there's a big outlay for purchasing a franchise, and not everyone's got that, especially at the moment. The audience, you know, we're talking to now, who are actors and have drama schools or dance schools, and it's a good thing to do along the side. Like you can purchase it and you can have it alongside going for acting bits and pieces as well, or adding it to your existing without having a huge outlay of money. And then the ethos can spread further, and people can benefit from what Zozimus Drama can do for their community and other people.
Yeah, of course. So it's very clear how much financial commitment there would be if they were to inquire about purchasing. One down payment and one monthly fee that doesn't change. And as you say, this could be for somebody who is already doing a bit of drama teaching maybe here and there, but wants something of their own, but they also want to carry on with their acting, dancing or singing career. It also could be somebody that wants to set up quite a lot of classes. So it's really flexible to work around your current situation, which everyone's looking for flexibility, aren't they? I would say 99% of people. And what has been the hardest part, Katy, about stepping into that business owner role?
I have a lot of imposter syndrome a lot of the time. And this might just be an ADHD thing, or it might just be a me thing, but I always feel like I'm a child in my head. So I feel like when I'm delivering things to my peers or to other people, it terrifies me, absolutely terrifies me. Obviously, if I'm on stage and in a character, that's fine. But it's feeling like, I think I'm just worried about judgment all the time and people kind of not thinking I know what I know. So I overthink everything. So on the one hand, yes, I do feel like kind of I'm stepping forward in a certain way, but it's getting over that hurdle of being able to believe it and to really show that I do know what I'm talking about. I do know how to run a business. I do know how to inspire and encourage children, and hopefully be able to kind of teach that and coach that with the community or people that will purchase a business in a box.
So have you done anything to try and help overcome any of that?
Well, I've done a little bit of work with you, which has been really, really helpful about public speaking as myself, which I still need to work on. And I think it's about, I guess, again, being kind to myself. So it's kind of trying to change my mindset that actually you're doing this because you know what you're doing, and trying to cut out the noise of second guessing, worrying what they're going to think, and not letting that bother me. It does at the moment, but I'm hopefully working towards being able to go, no, this is the way things are done. And it's baby steps at the moment.
Well, I think so many people will relate to feeling like they've got imposter syndrome, feeling that they're lacking confidence in certain areas of being a business owner. And the fact that you have said out loud right here, I think twice now, that you're trying to be kinder to yourself. We can all hold you accountable now.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So your idea of success evolved since you launched Zozimus Drama and then had the idea to create your business in a box?
I think it's actually seeing that what I've created in terms of like the ethos and the lessons that are delivered, that others can do it as well, and seeing the benefits that the children gain from that, and also feedback from nurseries and staff just saying this is absolutely brilliant how you're able to kind of work with well-known stories and pull out language and just having fun with them. That is a huge success. And I kind of sometimes look back on my Instagram about where it started. I started with like curiosities, and then I went and did parent and toddler classes for a bit, which would still work now. But as I said, I'm terrified of parents and adults. So even though I did it, it wasn't in my comfort zone. However, like at nurseries is fine because they're really just engaging with the children. So it's come a long, long way and really become moulded into a certain structure and way of delivering things that seems to work with whoever takes it on, with it, like has been with my teachers, being able to deliver it and get the same responses. So that I feel has been quite successful.
And for anyone listening who's thinking about starting their own creative business, what would you tell them?
Just go for it, really. Scope it out and do a bit of planning, and work out exactly what you're wanting to deliver. However, there are always going to be ups and downs, especially if you're doing something from scratch, because you try one way and you might spend quite a bit of money doing that way and it doesn't work out, but then you're moulding your business in the right way. It just means you have to have a few failures before you have successes. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be like, oh, I work for myself. You have flexibility, but you can work a lot longer than you would do if it was a 9 to 5.
There's no clocking off time, is there? Unless you
No,
are really
and you need to make
with
sure.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, definitely go for it.
And that's exactly what I would say. Go for it. And finally, Katy, we're going to wrap things up now. But my final question that I like to ask every guest is if you could give one piece of advice to a fellow creative who's feeling stuck or unsure right now, would it be?
I think it's taking a step back if you can, whether it is if you can have a holiday or just some time out to just evaluate what's working and what's not working. It's a hard world out there, and especially with the pandemic, and then people are struggling with money, etc. And that's quite hard in the children's sector. But I think, it's taking a step back and looking at everything and going, right, what do I actually want? And if you realise what you're doing at the moment is just not making you happy, don't do it. Do something else and work out what else you want. It's not worth the stress. I think I had this advice with a fellow person on the mastermind I'm doing. He was just trying to take on too much over the summer and was just getting so upset and stressed about it. And I know it was making a certain amount of money, but she was just like, I've just totally burnt out. And I was just like, exactly. I said, so just stop. It's not worth it. You'd rather have the holiday, reset, get your thoughts together. And she actually took the advice, which is, well, exactly, because that's what you need to do sometimes. You can't just keep going. And it's hard to work out what you want to do, but sometimes you just have to take a step back and just go, right, I've got to relook at everything. And the word again that's been a running theme, be kind to yourself.
Oh, I think we should put that in the title somewhere of this episode, shouldn't we? Oh, fantastic. Katy, thank you so much. You have been so open, so honest, and so generous with your advice and your personal opinions and thoughts and all the information about your wonderful businesses. So thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you, find out more about your business in a box? Where can they connect with you?
So my website, which is zozimusdrama.com, has a section called Business in a Box, but I've also got the Drama Confidence Pro, which is on Instagram, as well as Zozimus Drama on Instagram.
We'll link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Katy.
You're very welcome. It was lovely to come on the show.
It was great to have you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Acting Coach Network podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you're following. And if you've got a moment, I'd love you to leave a quick review or share the episode with someone else in the industry who might need it. You can find me on Instagram at the Acting Coach Network. And if you're looking for support to grow your coaching business or creative career without burning out, check out my latest free resource in the show notes. I'll be back soon with more real conversations, expert insights, and tools to help you build a business you love. Until next time, keep going, stay kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.